And, the feet are just really fascinating. They're connected to the entire body, right? Pisces is a
Hmm.
energy that's very like connected to all that is, and the feet definitely have that sort of replication there. They're very, very sensitive, just like Pisces is. And they're kind of like your base and your foundation of your whole body. And then the lymphatic system as well is just yeah, I mean, the lymphatic system is fascinating. It's like this,
Hmm.
like it can create a really foggy energy if you're not moving lymph through your body, which can very much feel like that kind of Pisces, spacey, daydreamy energy. It can lead to like imbalances and infections and illness, which I think a lot of Pisces can struggle with weaker constitutions and can tend to get sick a lot easier than other signs. Pisces is the only water sign that doesn't have armor, right? The crab and the scorpion both have armor
Mm.
to protect their like soft insides because water signs are softies, right? They feel a lot. And then Pisces is just the fish, like it's just in it. And so it is just like very
Yeah.
absorptive, which our lymphatic system kind of just absorbs everything. And welcome to Conversations with the Planets with Lori Kaufman and Alicia Heiser, a podcast that roots the wisdom of the stars into our lived experiences here on Earth and weaves the power of diverse healing modalities together with astrology. I'm Alicia Heiser, an astrologer, herbalist, and witch living in Oregon on Kalapuya land, and I offer astrology consultations and teachings aimed at helping you honor your most authentic self and trust your intuition.
I'm Lori Kaufman, an astrologer, tarot reader, writer, and teacher. I co-lead the Asteroid Special Interest Research Group for NCGR, an astrology organization, and I offer all different sorts of readings, online and in person.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Conversations with the Planets. And today, Lori and I are continuing our conversation about medical astrology through the zodiac signs, and we'll be discussing the medical astrology of Libra through Pisces. We did a previous episode of Aries through Virgo that we'll be releasing later on if you're listening to us live. And if you have found this on YouTube, then that episode should already exist, and you can go search for it in our post history. But it was too much to get through all 12 signs in one episode. So here we are talking about the second half of the zodiac.
Yeah, we absolutely tried and could not.
Yeah, and wanted to give each sign their due and like really be able to talk about them rather than rush through them. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is the image on the screen is the Zodiac Man, which is an ancient image that shows the correspondences between different zodiac signs and parts of the body. And these are old correspondences that we find in astrology going back thousands of years. But as we talk about in the previous episode, correspondences can also be really subjective. You have disagreements in traditional astrological literature between different authors as to which zodiac signs and planets correspond with which parts of the body. We all have the critical thinking capabilities to come up with our own correspondences based off of our own lived experiences. So definitely use these for inspiration. There's a lot of synchronicities and accuracies that do come through with this. Like there's a reason this image and these correspondences have existed for so long, but
Yeah.
don't like let it stop you there. Like you can take this and run with it and kind of form your own creative understanding of how the zodiac corresponds to our body as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But starting down on the wheel, we can start with Libra. And so we got the scales pointing to kind of the lower back area. And Libra especially rules the kidneys. That's the most like very
Yeah.
literal rulership, right? The kidneys are kind of these, they balance out our electrolytes and our water and the fluids in our
Mhm.
body. There's two of them. Um, Libras and people with prominent Libra placements pee a lot. That's a
Yes.
big stereotype, or
That's a
can
big
deal with
one.
lower back pain. Libra also just rules the general lower back region. Sometimes people say the hips or even the butt. Sometimes that's Sag.
Yeah.
Yeah, what else would you say about Libra, Lori?
Yeah, I would say that's usually Sag. So some people also put Libra with the adrenals, and
Mm,
balancing the adrenals, but a lot of people with that with Aries too. But I feel like we talked about this in the last episode a little bit. Sometimes you see overlap between the sister signs, kind of like ruling over the same thing. So this is kind of one of those times where you see the adrenals being ruled by both Aries and Libra.
hmm
You mentioned the kidneys and the lower back, the lumbar. Leo rules the upper back and Libra rules the lower back. So there is kind of a bit of a split there.
Although
Um,
Leo also just generally rules the
is
spine
the
as well.
spine
So even the
correct?
spine and the lower back would still, I
Yeah,
guess they could overlap, but still would definitely have Leo if the spine's involved at all.
correct. Yes. Um, Yeah, but then, as you mentioned, filtration of bodily fluids is definitely a Libra thing, making sure the whole body is balanced. The equilibrium of the body is also
hmm
a Libra thing. Um, and yeah, I think
Yeah.
I think
And
that's
just to
about
sit with the
it.
adrenals for a bit, Venus and Mars both are very related to our hormones and have a lot to do with the hormones throughout the body. And we talked about this in the first episode with Aries definitely can also rule the adrenals, and especially like this
Mhm.
adrenalized state or things that bring adrenaline out in particular.
Yes.
But the adrenals sit on top of the kidneys. So that's part of why they're also associated with Libra. And while
Hmm.
obviously adrenaline is related to the adrenals, it doesn't stop there. The adrenals have so much to do with our overall hormonal picture in our body and a lot of the hormones that our body produces.
Hmm.
Um, and adaptogens can be really fantastic herbs to help when you're dealing with adrenal fatigue or just like burnout, like you're coming back from like a long illness, you're just feeling kind of like low energy after a period of stress. Taking adaptogens like ashwagandha is really gentle, eleuthero, rhodiola. But I'd say, you know, adaptogens can also be pretty strong, so don't take too many and try to take them
Yeah.
in the mornings. But those definitely can correspond to the adrenals and the hormones in our body in general. And then also with the whole Venus Mars hormone thing, we also talked a lot about how Taurus rules the thyroid, which also has a lot to do with the hormones in our
Hmm.
body. And then in Libra, you come down to the adrenal glands and that hormonal picture. But then just in general, when you're dealing with the hormones, both Venus and Mars are coming in. We'll also get to Scorpio in a bit, and then we'll be talking
Hmm.
about like the hormones related with the reproductive system as well, which is another Mars thing. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I've noticed a lot, like ailments and stuff that I see with Libra people is like usually having some sort of like lower back pain or like carrying a lot of weight, especially like just like what I've personally noticed is when you're people pleasing too much or bending over backwards for others and not really pouring enough into yourself, there can be like an energy of your lower back feeling like you're carrying too much weight.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that's kind of like the energetics behind it. I have also seen a lot of Libra rising specifically, but like Libra heavy people often get like UTIs or
Mm-hmm.
are dehydrated or basically just you need to drink water if you have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of Libra energy.
Absolutely.
Anything
And
that kind of,
electrolytes, not just
yeah,
water. You need help absorbing that water too with the electrolytes.
yeah, and like flushing out the system, being able
Yeah.
to find balance within the system.
hmm Yeah, and also just like the concept of homeostasis in the body, which feel like is this ever elusive, it's like so hard to achieve in modern life. But, drinking enough water, getting enough rest, eating nourishing food, getting, gentle movement and exercise regularly, managing your stress, those sorts of things that promote homeostasis, definitely, which is then, your hormones impact your entire body, right? And so when your hormones are feeling balanced and nourished and healthy, then your body in general is able to reach that equilibrium that, Libra has to do with.
Yes. Yeah, perfect.
Cool. Scorpio.
Scorpio.
Everyone's favorite medical astrology
Yeah.
correspondence. Scorpio, we have the scorpion over here pointing to the genital area, and Scorpio
Yep.
rules the reproductive organs as well as the colon and the rectum in the body, and just generally all methods of elimination, like also vomiting, like any way that
Mhm.
things come out of your body is like very scorpionic, the
Scorpio.
like purging processes we have. And then,
Right.
Scorpio is famously very sexual. And one of the reasons for that is because it literally rules the sexual organs of the body.
Yes. Yeah, Scorpio was actually my medical astrology series I did. Scorpio was the most watched video.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I thought it was really funny because the comments, there were a lot of people complaining about PCOS
Mm,
and cycles. I've noticed a lot of like issues with the cycle, especially in women having difficulties with regulation or
hmm
having like really unequal cycles, basically.
hmm
But yeah, the reproductive organs, the bladder, urinary tract, and then as you said, elimination of waste in all directions, your sexual vitality and any like deep regenerative processes
hmm
also feel very scorpionic. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
Scorpio is an incredibly fertile zodiac sign in general. All of the water signs are because water is what allows for life. And I was just talking to an astrologer at a fair I was working at who said that she teaches a class on planting by the moon, and that
Mhm.
anything you plant under a Scorpio moon will just grow so well, which is interesting because
Mm.
she's not a Hellenistic astrologer. And, from a Hellenistic
Yeah.
astrology perspective, the moon is in fall in Scorpio. And so
Right.
you might think like, oh, don't plant during a Scorpio moon. But I'm like, Scorpio, I'd rather plant during a Scorpio moon than like a Sagittarius moon or something really hot, right? Like it does have
Right.
the water and it is associated with the reproductive organs. Um,
Right.
and fertility it can be literally reproductive in the children that
Right.
you produce, but it can also be like a book you write or a project you do or a business that you run or like
Right.
whatever you're creating with your body and your spirit and your energy. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Having issues like regulating and yeah, anyone with a uterus too, like there could be any kind of issue within the bodily system. That
Y-
surprises me too, what you just said about planting during a Scorpio or like yeah, the
Yeah.
Scorpio energy and planting. I need to sit on that and think on that because like Taurus energy always just feels like the best time to like plant
hmm
something.
Which,
So
yeah, Taurus definitely would be a good time too. But if you don't want to
for
wait a whole
sure.
other month for the Taurus moon, then, Taurus, Scorpio,
Yeah.
right? The
Right. I mean,
polarity.
but that's why I said Taurus. Like it's so interesting that
Hmm
polarity is coming through because I wouldn't have thought like Scorpio
Yeah.
feels like where it goes to die almost.
Yeah, but the deaths, I mean, like when I had Pluto on my IC, I had a baby, right? So it's like the god of the underworld gave me life. And so like death does necessitate life and like they are so connected. It's like if you don't
Yeah.
have the Scorpio process of things dying back, then you don't have the fertile soil for things to grow from. And Scorpio is like that fertile soil, like even it ruling your colon and like thinking
Yeah.
about the correspondences between our colons and the soil and how both are just hopefully teeming with a really healthy microbiome. Like
Mhm.
even the digestive process that goes on in our body, like when food moves through your small intestine, which is the Virgo part of the body, you like your intestine is breaking everything down into these small bite-sized or like small little pieces and making everything really digestible, which is Virgo. And then there's
Yeah.
all this extra stuff that ends up in the colon that our bodies can't digest and break down, that our microbiome and all of these little bacteria and fungi and like these little living things that are part of us are able to break down more things from our food and make more stuff bioavailable to our bodies.
Yes.
And that's, if you want to tend to healthy soil, you want to tend to a healthy gut, and that's all very scorpionic, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and Scorpio, or sorry, not Scorpio, Mars in general kind of feels like infections or like
Hmm.
abscesses, fevers, overheating conditions that have like too much build or like any kind of inflammation. So like, you know, that can be a Scorpio or Aries thing that
Hmm.
you might have in general if you have any of those like really strong placements.
Hmm.
But yeah, like I see a lot of like people who complain about UTIs often have heavy Libra and or Scorpio
Hmm.
placements, but typically I do see a mix of both. The people who, like my clients who have complained about it the most often have heavy both of those.
Hmm.
Um, or like difficulty with like elimination, I'll say.
Yeah.
Um, but definitely like fertility issues. I see a lot of that too, and it often comes from Scorpio. But it could also be that you're extra fertile as well. Like it
Yes.
does go both ways.
It's
Like
like there's a
any
focus on fertility
correct.
beyond the normal.
And I think that's
Uh-huh.
always so important to note. Like sometimes these body parts are just prominent if you
Hmm.
have these like have this rising sign or have these like heavy energies in your chart. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be that they're a problem. They are often the first thing that go wrong if you're stressed out or if
Yeah,
you're like
if there's imbalance in your
if
life,
there's
then
an
they will become
imbalance.
imbalanced easier because they are more prominent. Um,
Yes.
yeah, and then like with the like infection perspective, another common Scorpio imbalance is candida overgrowth and tendency towards
Yeah.
yeast infections, especially because Scorpio is so wet. So it's like the more hot, dry type infections might be more of the nature of Aries, but like yeast infections need like wet environments to grow. And so a lot of people with a
Yes.
lot of Scorpio energy can tend towards candida imbalances. And
Mhm.
candida loves sugar. So if you're eating like a lot of
Mhm.
sugar and
Yeah.
carbs, you're like literally feeding the candida
Yeah.
because my candida exists in everyone's microbiome. It's just hopefully you have a healthy enough microbiome to keep candida from overgrowing, and then when it overgrows, that's when it causes the itchiness and the issues.
Sure.
Also, calendula and oregano are both fantastic herbs that are antifungal specifically against candida. So doing like a sitz bath with some calendula flowers and some oregano. I would start with a little bit of oregano and gradually add it as you do more sitz baths because oregano is so
Hmm.
strong. You're
Hmm.
very sensitive down there, so you don't want to like burn yourself. But regular sitz baths with both calendula and oregano, which are both very easy to grow in the garden, can be really helpful for candida. Um, yeah, I guess that's what I want to say about that.
Yeah. Um, oh man, there was something I was gonna say and now I'm like, I think I'm losing it.
Okay, I have some more I want to say, and so hopefully I'll just like keep talking and hopefully what
Okay,
you
go
wanted to
ahead.
say comes back. But Scorpio, we're also recording this coming up on a Scorpio full moon. I'm not sure when this will
Yeah.
actually be released, and I think the moon is still technically in Libra, but we're coming up on this like
Yeah.
big juicy Scorpio full moon, trine Jupiter in Cancer, and it's like Scorpio is like very deep, powerful psychic cycles. And then
Hmm.
because it's fixed water and it's still, that can also be like deep suppressed emotions. So
Yes.
Scorpio medical astrology can also like it can really relate to patterns and cycles that happen. Like Lori, you've already talked about
Hmm.
like cycles. Like Scorpio is very, very cyclical and calling us into that like life, death, rebirth
Yes. Yes.
cycle.
Yes.
And when you try to tamp that down or you like hold on or you get really fixed and stubborn, that's where you can deal with, constipation and different hormonal
Right.
issues and like suppressed rage and unprocessed trauma that can then suppress your creative output
Yeah.
and make it really hard to actually like reach your full creative potential. And like that's all very of the nature of Scorpio. And so it's like
Yeah.
finding those like watery psychic healing outlets is really, really nourishing for Scorpio. Like having a therapist, getting a good tarot reading, literally taking baths, spending time with water, like engaging with
Hmm.
water literally and engaging with the psychic realms are like really nourishing medicine for anything going on with Scorpio.
Yeah, and I did remember what I was going to say.
Good.
We talked about in the last episode we recorded when we talked about Virgo. I definitely mentioned that just from like my experience of being a reader and having a lot of Virgo clients, I think Virgo is the most common sign or the most likely sign to manifest their issues. But I think Scorpio is the second most that manifest their issues. And both the thing that I noticed that they both have in common is diet. And if you like obviously with Virgo with the digestive system, if you have a off balance diet or if you're not eating right or eating healthy, then obviously you're going to have some issues. But this does kind of bleed into Scorpio
Mhm.
and Cancer, and there's a few other signs that I would
Yeah.
argue like
Which
need
is,
to watch their diets more than other
yeah,
signs.
which is why like the correspondences aren't one for one literal. It's like there's overlap and
Yeah,
gradients with these things, but
for sure. But definitely like if you have a lot of Scorpio influence or if you're Scorpio rising, like definitely be mindful of what you eat and what you put into your body.
mhm.
Um, and like, because it is waste. Scorpios have tendencies to keep things in just like Virgos can.
Mhm.
So it's like you have to be able and willing to let things out, even if it's just like
Yeah.
your voice, even if it's just saying something. It's
Mhm.
that opposition of like the throat versus the up and the down.
Hmm. Absolutely. And like being careful of what you eat, that's both literal and also metaphorical. Like, what are you feeding your mind and your psyche and your spirit? And like, what are the stories you tell yourself and the things you surround your consciousness with? Because that all
Hmm.
influences the like psychic realms that Scorpio like loves to go deep into. And so make
Hmm.
sure you're nourishing yourself. I mean, that's also part of it, right? The moon is fallen in Scorpio. Scorpio is a sign that can struggle with nourishment and can, and my friends who have Scorpio moons are like, some of them are like alpine athletes who will do like these
Yeah.
crazy athletic, physical type two fun things that are really hard on their bodies and really intense, right? And that can be very Scorpio or like working really hard, not taking a break to like take a nap or eat a meal or anything. And so it's like you need to nourish yourself like metaphorically and literally with Scorpio,
Yeah.
because it doesn't come very natural to that sign.
Yeah. Well, especially, yeah, because the moon is fallen there.
Hmm.
And actually, my like best video on TikTok was literally me saying that Scorpio and Capricorn moons often don't have the resourcing they need within their own body, and they need more vitamins and minerals, and they need
Yeah,
to like
literally.
do more to take care of themselves. And I
Yeah.
definitely summoned a lot of Scorpio and Capricorns with autoimmune disorders and
Yeah.
diseases. But yeah, like if you have these energies, like, it don't feel doom and gloom, but like take care of yourself. Find
Yeah.
some vitamins. Like you do
Yeah.
need
Find your
to,
nourishment.
yeah, that is
Absolutely.
going to be an important way to just create balance. It's
Uh-huh.
imbalance is when things go wrong.
Yes. Um, anything else about Scorpio?
Um, I mean, this isn't really the medical astrology, but they usually have really like intense eyes.
Hmm. Totally. Yeah, my baby's ascendant ruler is in Scorpio and she's like
Hmm.
already, she's only 6 months old and especially if she's eating, she's just like very intense. Like, whoa, girl.
Yeah,
Okay.
I love it.
Mhm.
Scorpio energy is
Um,
so funny.
Yeah, it is. Okay. So then we have Sag, the archer, that
Hmm.
rules the thighs, the hips, the butt, the glutes. yeah, the upper legs. And like I'll
Hmm.
say like literally I have Mars and Jupiter and Sag and like I always just have thick thighs and they're I mean most girls hold a lot of strength in our thighs, but like my thighs are definitely like the strongest part of me. I'm a skier, which takes a lot of quad strength.
Hmm.
Um I think like how Sag loves it's like, the wild horses running across the plains, just like free exploring, and like you need strong legs to go everywhere that Sag wants to go.
Hmm.
What else would you
Yeah.
say about Sag?
I mean, yeah, hips, thighs, femur, large leg muscles, the butt.
Hmm.
Um, Sciatic nerve, and
Yeah.
I think like also just like the body's general capacity for like movement can be
Mm-hmm.
a Sag thing. Um, there's definitely like a bit of an addictive tendency that
Yes.
leans towards Sag as well, which like isn't necessarily the medical astrology behind it, but I have noticed like a lot of sugar intake or like addictions to like food or escapism or like things
Hmm.
like that can show up.
Substances, oil. Jupiter is
Substance.
very oily, liking like salty, oily
Mm-hmm.
foods.
Yes.
Jupiter specifically also rules the liver, and I always kind of think of the liver in relation with Sag as well.
Yeah.
Um, and just yeah, how much are we indulging, right? Like Sagittarius season is Christmas season, which is like really fun for a period of time where you're just like eating a ton of like sweets and giving gifts and getting together with everyone and buying all this stuff and just a big
Yeah.
red man flying around the world and like it's so over the top, but if we lived like that 24/7 it would be so hard on our bodies. It would be really overstimulating.
Yeah.
And Sag and Pisces both can kind of tend towards excess in
Yes.
that way and those sorts of behaviors, which I mean, addiction is like a medical condition. So I would definitely put that
Absolutely.
in there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I notice that a lot. And Sagittarius like often holds a lot of emotions in their hips.
Hmm.
So there can be like really like I've noticed one hip more forward than the other. One of my one of my friends who she moved, but she did circus with me. Her hip bones were like so sharp and pointy, and I asked her one day, like when we first met, I was like, "Are you a Sag rising, or like do you have heavy Sag placements?" And she was a Sag rising, but her
Yeah.
hip bones were just like points, and I like. When I would base her, when I would lift her, her hip bones would like dig into my feet. And I was like, why are they so sharp?
Yeah.
So she's what I think of now when I think of
Yeah.
Sagittarius hips.
Or, like
There's something
Jupiter.
prominent.
Yeah. And Jupiter is like such a fertile planet. And then when you're thinking about the hips
Hmm.
too, from the perspective of the female body, like having like wide birthing hips to like be able to
Hmm.
bring a baby through can also be a very, not that all Sagittarians are just like made to give birth, but if that is someone who
Right.
like, if you are someone
Could be
who,
the opposite.
yes, exactly. But like for me, that's definitely true. Like I have wide hips and I have a baby. So,
Yeah. Um, yeah, muscle strain can definitely also be an
mhm.
issue or like sciatic pains. Um, Injuries with your hips or joints, um, any of those type of things I notice pretty frequently. I mean, Sagittarius is the centaur, right? So it's
Mhm.
half human, half beast. It's got the ability to like roam free, but it also like, it needs a lot of freedom.
Yeah, and in like medieval and Renaissance astrology, they would talk about how Sagittarius and Leo both are very primal signs, and the second half of Sagittarius, and I believe all of Leo, are considered feral.
Hmm.
But it is true. It's like, this fiery animal instinct and this like feral wild creature energy of Sag,
Yeah.
like cannot be contained. It's very, very primal, very animalistic. And with that from like a health perspective, activity and physical motion. Like Sag is
Mhm.
hot and fiery and like moving your body, whether that's like, playing sports or like I love to go ski or, doing things like that. Or even if it's just like dancing around your room for 5 minutes or going on like a brisk walk is like very
Mhm.
helpful for dispersing all of that extra fire energy that Sag can have. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, like if a kid had strong Sag placements, I would be like, go run around in the yard, like if they were misbehaving, right? Just go
Yeah.
run yourself out. Like, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, and like hip openers too, and like just
Hmm.
anything you can
Yes.
do to release some of the tension in your hips and allow some of that movement to get out of your body.
Hmm.
Um, I did a series on like yoga poses or exercises for each of the signs, and like the Sagittarius one is the only one that like did well, and everyone was complaining about their tight hips. And I was like,
Hmm.
yeah, you guys like really need to open your hips up. Like,
Yeah. Or like in
the big
contrast
thing.
with my two Sag placements, I have extremely flexible hips. So again, you could
Yeah.
see either side of the extreme. But then like my partner who also has a ton of Sag has very tight hips. He's also a 31-year-old man. And I'm like, what 31-year-old man does not have very tight hips? I feel like guys in their
That's
30s
true.
are not the
Men
most
in
flexible
general, yeah.
demographic.
Yeah.
But
Men in general tend to not really have open hips.
yeah. So yeah, go do that butterfly stretch. Open up your hips a
Yes.
bit. Um, anything else about Sag?
Um, Definitely, I would say overexertion is a big thing too, just like being
Yeah.
careful not to like push yourself too far. Because you did mention like running around free in the yard, which is great, but like there
But you
is
might need a nap after
it's
that.
like,
Like you might not have any
yeah, like
energy
too
left.
much of
Yeah.
a good thing is definitely very like Jupiter. So just
Hmm.
like being mindful that you're balancing yourself with rest. Like all of the mutable signs have like a double-bodied nature to them. So just like being mindful of like how much you're pouring into anything when you have
Yeah.
a lot of mutable in your chart, really.
It can become really scattered and distractible and directionless. And Jupiter also is a planet that loves to say yes. And I feel like Sag is, it's like so imaginative and creative, and they like think all these amazing ideas into existence. And then, you move on to Capricorn, which we'll get to next. And it's like, okay, but what's your action plan? Like, what's your 10-year plan? What's the
Right.
budget for this? Like,
Right. What are
what
we
are the
actually
material
doing?
things? Whereas the Sag is like, yes, oh my gosh, I love all these big ideas. And that's great because Sag is like the idea generator and like they're so imaginative and creative and you need that
Mhm.
energy. But then it's like, okay, but what of which ones can we actually bring into like the earthy material realm? Because you can't bring all of like the divinity that Sag has access to, all that like fire energy. You can't bring it all down. So you have to like
Right.
prioritize and be aware. I feel like Sag can also just tend towards that more ADHD sort of outlook where it's like a million
Hmm.
exciting things and you have this really wide lens that Jupiter in general really likes to zoom out and look at the big picture, look at the
Hmm.
like universality or like the connectedness of different things. And there's really a lot of useful ways where that perspective and that mindset can help.
Yeah.
And then there's ways where you can get overwhelmed or spread too thin or not actually like accomplish much at all. So it's just learning how to balance that and be aware of that tendency.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like liver strain too can also be like a big thing, especially with like the overconsumption and like and weight
Hmm.
gain from excess
Uh-huh.
and um yeah, just like, once again, just being careful.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot like I see especially in Sag risings, like having like really long legs or something really prominent
Hmm.
about your hips or butt or
Yeah, like
like
I think like
or
Tina
thighs.
Turner has Sag placements and she's like known for her
Mm,
legs. Like someone with really nice legs might have prominent Sag
yeah.
in their chart.
Yeah. Taylor Swift is a Sag and she has her legs insured for $1 million.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Um,
Um, and like herbally, dandelion root is really cooling
mhm.
to the liver. Milk thistle is really nourishing for the liver. Either of those are great tinctures. And even with what we were talking
Mhm.
about with Scorpio, like when you have more reproductive issues or issues with your menstrual cycle, sometimes that can be a liver imbalance. So introducing milk thistle in particular can be really helpful for like PCOS and other hormonal issues. But definitely can be good for Sag too. Like what, dandandelion's pretty cooling, and like the liver's like this like furnace of heat, and so it's like finding
Right.
ways to cool down your body, whether it is dandelion or, linden is more cooling, like hibiscus, just bringing in, these more cooling energies and really moistening
Mhm.
as well, like drinking enough water, and bringing moisture into your like day-to-day life, because Sag is like so hot and dry.
Yeah. Well, and just like everything in moderation. Let's just say that one more time.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, which is, yeah,
Yeah.
just like Hildegard, that's one of her biggest
Mhm.
teachings is like moderation is the key to health. And I think that's true. Like you don't
Right.
need to have like complete abstinence or anything. You just need to like
Right.
enjoy a beer, not five beers.
Right. Right. Well, and I think that's where so many people like I actually see this a lot in my Sag clients. Like they come to me a lot for like addiction and stuff like that,
Hmm.
or they'll ask questions like that. And I'm like, well, yeah, just you can have one, but don't have five. Yeah, like
Yeah, totally.
finding the balance between like not saying no to yourself. Because if you say no to yourself, then you end up binging.
Yes.
So
And
you have
binging is a
to,
big Sag and Pisces tendency.
right. Absolutely. And like, so it's like, what can you do so that you can like only have a little bit? And like, I kind of grew up with this. Like, my mom has a Pisces moon, and like she would sometimes just like not keep sugar in the house because
Hmm.
she knew that she would eat it, or things like that. And it's like, well, you can have a little bit, just like find moderation.
Yeah. And we talked about this in the last medical astrology episode, but Kira Sutherland did a really interesting talk at Norwalk a few years back on how in modern day we're actually seeing more health issues related to Venus and Jupiter
Right.
rather than like, you think like Mars and Saturn bring health issues and difficulty, and that was more true historically, but now it's like we have access to so much of everything that engaging
Right.
in excess and eating too much sugar, consuming too many hard substances, consuming too many fats and oils, and these sorts of Venus Jupiter things are leading to health issues and imbalances of excess, and that definitely is relevant here when we talk about Sag.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Um, well, and I'm all day I will take any opportunity to talk about Jupiter and Zeus. Um,
Hmm.
but like everyone always talks about the benefics and like romanticizes Jupiter and Venus, and like everyone's been so excited about this like Jupiter and Cancer transit, and like low key, Jupiter and Venus can be way more difficult, I think, than
Hmm.
Mars and Saturn can be. And obviously, it's dependent on the situation, and like there's so much nuance to that. But I think like people tend to only see the good in the benefics, and I think there's actually like a lot of difficulty with the benefics that
Yeah,
should be talked about way more than it is.
absolutely.
Jupiter's
Yeah,
a hard planet.
excess. Jupiter is, and even in Greek mythology, like Zeus wiped out a whole race of man to
Right.
he was like bored with them. That's not particularly benefic. Or we talked about this in another
Zeus was not a
episode at one
benefic guy.
point. No, the astrology chart for the Titanic sinking is a
Mm,
Sagittarius rising chart with Jupiter and Sagittarius. And you're like, "Oh,
hmm.
well, isn't Jupiter and Sag good? Like, why was the Titanic sinking?" But it's like the wealthy people, the Jupiter and Sag people were able to get on lifeboats and survive
Right.
the Titanic sinking, and then there weren't enough lifeboats for everyone, and so everyone else drowned. And like that can be very Jupiter, is like he has his people, and if you're a child of Jupiter, like you're very blessed in many ways, although you may
Hmm.
struggle with like excess and addiction. But then Jupiter also will like leave a lot of us out as well.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Um, okay, on that note, anything else to
Yeah.
say about Sag?
That one took a bit of a tangent. Um, I
As
don't,
a classic Sag, it would not be
I
Sag if we couldn't
know,
take a
I
tangent.
know.
So,
Any excuse to be like, also Zeus.
yeah, crazy guy.
Um, no, I think I'm good on Jupe,
Okay, off
on Sag.
to the Saturn ruled signs. So we got
Yay.
Capricorn. I was telling Lori I would not have known this was Capricorn if it wasn't in context with all the other signs. But
Yeah,
from
he's
process
kind
of
of like a
elimination,
silly
and
little
then
guy.
there's like the goatee horns. So this is Capricorn, which
A
rules
silly
the
goat.
knees as well as just like general structures of the body, like the bones, the skin, the ligaments, like all the things that like hold us together and give us a container to like exist in. But
Yes.
particularly the knees are very Capricorn. And I can say within six
Yeah,
months
you
of my
know.
progressed Mars moving into Capricorn, I had to get knee surgery and surgery on
Mhm.
my to repair my ACL and my meniscus.
Yeah.
Um, which Mars is surgery, so that's very literal.
Yeah.
And I mean, we can talk about like the Time Lords, like Saturn was my Time Lord. Mars and Saturn conjoined on my moon the day that my like I tore my ACL and like I had just entered a Cancer perfection month. So it was like
Mhm.
Saturn and the moon were my time lords, and I have a moon Saturn conjunction in the sixth house. And like there's so much there, but it's like
Yeah,
Saturn and
that's insane.
particularly Capricorn who rule the knees. And that is very literal for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Capricorn is the knees, the bones, the skeletal structure, the joints, the cartilage, teeth, connective tissue, and
Hmm.
hair follicles. Um, the biggest thing I guess I see with Sag placements are
Capricorn placements.
Capricorn, sorry. Lost my mind for a second. Um, are like joint pain, joint
Yeah.
issues, like beyond like knee problems, because like knee problems are pretty easy to have once you're like above the age of 30, I would
Yeah,
say.
it's like everyone's like, "Oh, okay, my knees hurt now."
Yeah, everybody
Yay.
has some sort of knee something. Um, but I have a lot of students actually in the circus world who have EDS. Um, and it's like Ehlers Daniel or Ehlers Daniels.
Ehlers-Danlos
Eller, thank
syndrome,
you.
some
I don't know
yeah,
why my
something like
brain just was like, I forget now. Um, but yeah, I know so many people who have that, and typically like I think they find circus because they're trying to find strength behind the flexibility. But if you have a lot of Capricorn placements, you really need to do this because the hypermobility that comes with Saturn, um, especially when you're like unbalanced, it can also manifest the other way. I think I actually kind of have the other. I don't have much Capricorn, but I have a lot of Aquarius, and I have really tight joints. So I don't gain flexibility easily. If I take a week off of yoga, I lose all of it. And I've never really been a super flexible person. And I've always had, I mean, I've worked in fitness for 15 years. But I've always had this theory that you either gain flexibility easily or you gain strength really easily.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I don't think anybody, like, it's super rare that somebody's able to gain both easily. Like,
Yeah.
you, like, typically are kind of like born with the structure of one or the other. Um, and I've noticed that a lot of Capricorn people tend to have the hyper flexibility side of things and typically need to learn to structure and contain their body so
Mm-hmm,
that
mm-hmm,
they don't overextend themselves, which is very like metaphorical as well.
mm-hmm,
Capricorn also like I said rules the teeth, so I've noticed a lot of Capricorn people take care of their teeth pretty well, but also
mm-hmm,
often have a lot of cavities for kind of no reason. Or like they've had a lot of teeth issues. A lot of Capricorn rising specifically lose their hair when they're stressed. Or they can have really thin hair. So something interesting about the hair in general, Saturn rules the hair follicles, but if you have a lot of Leo or Cancer placements or like a heavy influence of the sun or the moon, you typically have really thick and shiny hair. But if you have a lot of Saturn influence, you often have like really like thin or stringy hair, or sometimes
Hmm.
thick and stringy hair. It's almost like horse-like in some people. And you might be more likely to lose your hair if you are stressed out.
Hmm. That's well said.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and Capricorn, it's ruled by Saturn, which is the farthest visible planet from the sun. It's an earth sign, so it's cold and dry. And so Capricorns really they need warming, moisturizing energy. And so even if that's like literally like having a routine of putting lotion on yourself,
Yes.
cinnamon is a really like warming and moistening because a lot of warming herbs like cayenne or paprika can be more drying, but cinnamon is also moistening,
Mm.
so it can be a good herb
Hmm.
to work with if you have strong Capricorn. Finding ways to just stimulate circulation in the body, particularly with the
Yeah.
joints. There's not a lot of blood vessels around our joints. And so that's one reason why joint issues can occur is because you're just not getting much fresh circulation or there's weird inflammation
Mhm.
issues in the body. Rosemary is a really nice, gentle circulatory stimulant that you can like sprinkle a little in your tea or just eat it with your food. So our cayenne and paprika as well as I already mentioned, but stimulating circulation, stimulating warmth and movement because Capricorn can like really kind of hold on,
Yeah.
stretching and like releasing tension from your body, getting a nice massage. Those can all be ways to kind of soothe Capricorn energy.
Yeah, absolutely. And like Capricorns tend to be very like resilient and
Yes.
like disciplined and enduring, but
Mm-hmm.
like often like to their own detriment. It's like remembering to like be easy on yourself and take breaks and stuff too, because that's often when things start to fall apart a little
Mm-hmm.
bit. Um, yeah, and then I've noticed that a lot of Capricorn risings, um, and this is just like something I've personally noticed, but they're usually really like thin. They almost look like skeletons in a way, like
Mm-hmm.
you, or there's something really prominent about their bones. And if you're
Mm-hmm.
a Capricorn rising with a lot of Jupiter influence, or your Saturn is in a Jupiter ruled sign, like this is not going to be for you. Um, I've upset a lot of Capricorns on TikTok by saying they're usually thin. But I think it's just the ones I know are like very, very like bone thin.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like they've often like broken a bone in childhood or have really strong bones. It's either one extreme or the other, really strong or really weak. Um, yeah, iron deficiencies is a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you're a Capricorn moon, because the moon is not happy there. We did kind of just
Yeah.
talk about that with
We did. But
Scorpio,
the
but
moon in particular in Capricorn really struggles to absorb what it needs to. Like even if you're like
yeah,
taking medicine like
right,
in the time of the month when the moon's in Capricorn, your body's just not going to absorb it as well. And so
right.
people with a natal Capricorn moon or moon in Capricorn by progression, which we all have every 28-ish years
Hmm.
for a few years, then
Yeah,
yeah, like
that's a good
really,
point. Yeah.
and like I just saw a naturopath who specializes in like postpartum care for like mothers
Mhm.
recovering from having a child. And she had me do blood work and like just through looking at my labs closely and carefully, like identified a number of different imbalances with like different hormones and like nutrients within my body and gave me a very targeted like okay like I
Mm.
need some iron infusions, I need to take certain vitamins, I like need a certain med to help my thyroids. Like she like really
Yeah.
like took my blood and looked very closely at it, and naturopaths tend to
Hmm.
do that sort of work. And so like
Yeah.
honestly this is an invitation to everyone, but especially like if you have a Capricorn moon or you just feel like you're not like getting the nourishment your body needs, doing blood work to
Mhm.
actually see like how much vitamin D or how your like B vitamin levels are or like what your cortisol levels are like in the morning. Like that can actually be really informative and help target how to make sure you are
Absolutely.
nourishing your body properly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really great point. Um, well, and Saturn. Chronos is literally like the etymology, the root word of chronic. So
Mm-hmm.
Capricorn and Aquarius, I mean anyone with a
Anything with
heavy
Saturn, any Saturn
anything Saturn
influence
related
can be chronic.
is yeah, is potentially going to be a little bit more prone to chronic issues or like longer lasting illnesses, or you might be slower to recover, or you might just need a lot of extra anything when you're recovering.
Hmm.
Um, so like allowing yourself, yeah, space and time and all of that is going to be really important, especially if you're in some sort of recovery period. Trying not to rush time, trying not to rush a
Hmm.
recovery, just kind of like a lot of patience and discipline and allowing. You also kind of brought up like, yeah, skin dryness and stuff like
Yeah.
that, but like having to take care of your skin, nails, hair, like you might notice when you're stressed out, like those might get brittle. Like, I've noticed my some of my Capricorn rising friends complain about having like really brittle nails or like really like thin hair, like having to take like vitamins and stuff for things like that could be
Hmm.
really like, a good way to deal with that. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Good.
They also age backwards. I've always had this joke that
Yes.
like Capricorn heavy people are like Benjamin Button. Like they're
Hmm.
always like really serious children and they always like look really old as children, but then they usually have like a moment typically around or post Saturn return, the first one, where they just kind of like 180 the other direction and kind of just go crazy because they need a break. They've been
Hmm.
so serious their whole life. And they often like look very young or have like a very youthful energy when they're older, but they
Hmm.
often have the opposite when they're young. So it's a really interesting energy as well.
Yeah. Saturnian energy in general, is like fine wine where it just gets better with time. And so it's like not that like things will just be like easy and delightful when you're older, but a lot of times when people have heavy
Right.
Capricorn and or heavy Aquarius energy, it's like you learn how to, because Saturn is heavy. It's like gravity. It's like the gravity of existence. And you learn how to
Yeah.
hold that better as you get older. Whereas
Yeah.
many people with strong Saturn influence may have had to become more mature than they should have needed to at a younger
Right.
age. And, holding
Right.
that sort of burden when you're younger is a lot harder. Whereas as you get older, that maturity, you become a lot more
Yeah.
powerful and graceful in holding that.
Yeah, and I see this most in Capricorn moons again, but I also see it in Aquarius moons or anyone with heavy either. Um, they usually like raise themselves in childhood or are
Hmm.
like forced to grow up very fast. And
Hmm.
like you often end up becoming some sort of caretaker when you're young.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Aquarius.
Aquarius.
Yeah, so then we got the water bearer over here, which rules the shins and calves and ankles, and then also the circulatory system, which back to Lori's point of these, the opposites having
Hmm?
a relationship with each other, right? And Leo rules the cardiovascular system and our blood and our circulation in that way, and then Aquarius rules like the capillaries and the blood vessels and like all of the like structures that allow the blood to move through the body.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I always think Aquarius is so funny because of course it rules the calves and ankles. It's
Both it and Capricorn. Yeah, I'm just like, okay.
right, right. It's so good. But yeah, basically the lower half of the leg, circulation through the limbs, veins, and yeah, your flow of energy. Um, a lot of Aquarius people have like Raynaud's, I think is how you pronounce it. It's basically a condition where your fingers and toes go numb.
Oh yeah.
Um, which actually kind of unrelated but related. I was reading a recent study that was done, and they actually found that they used to think it was really bad if you had bad circulation to your hands and your fingers and toes, basically, because, your fingers and toes can go numb. But they're actually finding that it means that your body is really intelligent because it's prioritizing blood flow to the brain and it's prioritizing the limbs least. So smarter people basically have frozen fingers and toes. Which like
Interesting.
also kind of made me laugh because I was like, that feels very Aquarian in general
Hmm.
to be like, nope, like I don't care about my fingers and toes.
You're just
I
like
care more
up in your
about my
head and
brain.
yeah, you're
Yeah,
just
like
thinking. Yeah.
yeah, like let's prioritize my brain. Um, yeah, that feels very literal to me, but I did
Hmm.
think that was a really interesting study that they found because it makes sense that yeah,
Yeah.
your body is prioritizing this middle section of what's like actually important, what's actually keeping you alive, and like if your fingers and toes are kind of numb sometimes, it's not like the end of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, any sort of imbalanced focus on the circulatory system can be very Aquarian. So whether that is like
Hmm.
Lori's saying, where your circulation is just off balance, or just any sort of extra focus on the circulatory system. And then I already said this with Capricorn, but rosemary, fantastic peripheral like circulatory stimulant. It stimulates a lot of
Yeah.
blood to the head, but also to the fingers and toes. Cayenne and paprika as well. A lot of like more warming herbs will stimulate circulation, so those can be really nourishing for heavy Aquarius energy.
Hmm.
And then a thing that's more like in the mental space for Aquarius is Aquarius can also tend towards dissociation as an
Hmm.
energetic way of holding space. And I will say dissociation is incredibly wise, especially as a trauma response. Like if you can't
Yeah.
physically leave a difficult situation and you're able to dissociate, that allows you to survive. And so, like for any of us who just have struggled with dissociation, it's like honoring that and really appreciating that as a protector that has like holds you through difficult circumstances. But then, Aquarius is it's this very intellectual air sign that can just bring us up in a way. And so, when you have a lot of Aquarius energy or you're just struggling with dissociation, like coming back into your body when it's safe to. And that's why I start with like,
Yeah.
if you need to be dissociated, if things are just like really hard and heavy and it's just easier to like, and we all do it, at the end of a day when you're just like on your phone, like watching TV, just like zoned out, like that's great to honor. But if you feel like you're like up in a way, like a hot air balloon, like losing your footing in reality, then doing body scans, feeling where in your body is touching the ground and being held by the earth, noticing 5 things you can see, 4 things you can feel, 3 things you can smell, 2 things you can hear, and 1 thing you can taste, or whatever order of the senses, those sorts of things, taking a few deep breaths. Those can all be really nourishing to help kind of counter dissociation when you do want to come back into your body.
Yeah. Well, and it's yeah. This has been, I mean, I have an Aquarius stellium for anybody
Yeah.
who's new here. But I definitely relate to the disassociation aspect of Aquarius. And like, I've always kind of joked, I'm a robot. I will forget to eat for days at a time. It just like doesn't even occur to me to do regular things that like you literally need to do. Um, and like my body won't always like give me the signals. And I was actually just having this conversation yesterday, because I ended up researching monks. This is such an Aquarius conversation, but while I was finishing writing my book, I had noticed that I was like feeding off of my writing and I was completely like ignoring any bodily functions. Anytime I had to like go to the bathroom or felt any hunger or anything, I was just like, no, no, I'll get up in like 10 minutes. But then I would blink and 12 hours went by and I was, oh my God, I never got up in 10 minutes. Like I forgot, I didn't know, whatever. So I was really only eating dinner for honestly, like 9 months, like the 9 months that I really like exiled myself to finish the book. And there was a point in which I went out with a friend and I looked at a picture of myself and I looked like a skeleton and I didn't recognize myself and I was like, "Oh my God, am I that thin?" My friend was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Oh my God." Like I didn't even realize and I started to research why am I doing this to myself? Because it felt so good. I was like getting like a high from it almost.
Hmm.
Like it felt amazing. And I found that monks actually do that. They starve themselves for days at a time because they think it's easier to digest and download information when you're empty, basically. And
Mm.
so I thought that was really interesting because like I felt so good, even though I was like deeply processing my trauma while writing an encyclopedia about the asteroids. Like I was like deeply in it. But yeah, like all that to say, like the Aquarius urge to just disconnect for the sake of information, like is so real. And I'm
Hmm.
like learning so much about how that can show up and it feels really good. That's the crazy part.
Hmm.
It was like almost like a high.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
is very, very Aquarius. Thanks for
I know.
sharing.
I know. And I had that like moment a few times where I was like, okay, well, this is just very Aquarius, I guess.
Sometimes it's just that literal.
It really is.
Hmm.
Um, oh, veins. Veins are another
Hmm.
big Aquarius thing. Yeah, I've noticed that a lot of like older Aquarians tend to complain about the veins in their legs or veins that stick out or are prominent in the body. Having your limbs go numb, if you're really the ankles in general, having really strong or really weak ankles are a big
Hmm.
Aquarius thing. Um, I recommend calf raises and just like definitely putting a lot of emphasis on trying to make sure that you're um yeah, like strengthening your legs, strengthening the lower half of your legs. Muscle twitching and like nerve tension in the body or like restlessness can also be an Aquarius
Yeah,
thing.
which is very like magnesium is really, really helpful. Like if you tend towards Charlie horses or
Mm.
muscle cramps, which, I think there's like the stereotypical Charlie horses that end up in the calves, right? And that's very Aquarian, but you can have them wherever. And like I just have been texting my friend who's like getting into her third trimester of pregnancy, and she's like, "Oh man, the Charlie horses are picking up." And it's,
Mm.
especially something that pregnant people deal with, but like anyone can. And part of that is making sure you're drinking enough water and having electrolytes, but also taking enough magnesium, really upping your magnesium dosage. You may be needing way more magnesium than you're actually getting.
Hmm.
And magnesium oil topically on the area as well can be really helpful. So, yeah.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yes.
Trying to think, was there anything else? I think, yeah, just endurance and stability are
Yeah.
big Saturn words. So just like, um, the dryness can come in with Aquarius as well.
Hmm.
It's funny, the second it gets cold outside, my like hands are bleeding from like being dry.
Yeah.
Um, so lotion. If you
Yeah.
have a lot of
Lotion,
Saturn
shea
energy, get
butter.
some lotion.
I find I have like this chapstick made out of shea butter that I made a few years ago, and like I'll put it on my knuckles
Mhm.
when they get really dry when it's dry out.
Yeah.
All right.
All
Pisces.
right. Pisces.
Last but not least,
I
we have the
know, we're making our way.
fishies down here. And Pisces rules the feet
Yep.
and also a lot of liquids in the body, particularly the lymphatic system.
Yes.
Um, and the feet are just really fascinating. They're connected to the entire body, right? Pisces is a
Mm-hmm.
energy that's very like connected to all that is, and the feet definitely have that sort of replication there. They're very, very sensitive, just like Pisces is. And they're kind of like your base and your foundation of your whole body. And then the lymphatic system as well is just yeah, I mean, the lymphatic system is fascinating. It's like this,
Mm-hmm.
like it can create a really foggy energy if you're not moving lymph through your body, which can very much feel like that kind of Pisces, spacey, daydreamy energy. It can lead to like imbalances and infections and illness, which I think a lot of Pisces can struggle with weaker constitutions and can tend to get sick a lot easier than other signs. Pisces is the only water sign that doesn't have armor, right? The crab and the scorpion both have armor
Mm-hmm.
to protect their like soft insides because water signs are softies, right? They feel a lot. And then Pisces is just the fish, like it's just in it. And so it is just like very
Yeah.
absorptive, which our lymphatic system kind of just absorbs everything and needs a little bit of help
Yeah.
to kind of move
That's
things
a
through.
That's a really interesting point. I've actually never thought of it like that. The way that I like to think about the water signs is that the scorpion is like it's a desert animal, even though it's a water sign.
Hmm.
So it like is only on land, and the crab has the ability to go in and out of the water. It kind of like sees both perspectives, but then the fish can't leave the water.
Mm-hmm.
So there is kind of that, it's interesting, the outer shell on land, but then Pisces
Yeah, this
is
fish
like,
is,
yeah, the fish is the fish. It just is in the water.
yeah,
Um,
that's a good point.
you can't escape the ocean.
Nope.
Um, but yeah, I would say like foot injuries or like swelling in the feet or like fungal infections can be
Mm-hmm.
big. Like Pisces
Like athlete's foot.
athlete's foot, it's a common one. Um, any kind of, yeah, like s swelling or water retention.
Yeah.
And we talked about this a lot with the Sagittarius, um, all the Jupiter things,
Yeah,
but
the like excess and ADHD,
yes.
like brain fog in particular is even more Pisces, I'd say.
Yeah, yeah, that's a huge one, I think, with Pisces, like being able to find a balance, especially when it comes to like escapism.
Mm-hmm.
Um, excess, big Jupiter words.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah. Yeah. Also, like Pisces tend to be really like fluid in their movements, especially like within their feet.
Mm-hmm.
You might like be really like soft-footed, like very graceful, or just like have the ability to just like move very quickly or like softly. I've seen a lot of Pisces rising specifically complain about like having flat feet or having like foot pain specifically from their like not having an arch.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or things like that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
And herbally, calendula is amazing for
Mm.
Pisces stuff, particularly lymphatic things. I will say calendula is not safe to take internally if you're pregnant. But other than that, taking like putting some calendula flowers in your tea helps move the lymph through your body, which, like your blood has a pump, like your heart is moving blood through your body. Your lymph does not have a pump. And so herbs like calendula that can help move the lymph through the body can really help with brain fog, really help boost your immune system, really help your body release toxins.
Mhm.
Also hot cold alternations, like even in the shower,
Mhm.
or like, people love their cold plunges, but I'll literally like most of the time in the shower, I'll at least splash my face with cold water because that activates the dive response, which actually activates your parasympathetic nervous system and helps calm you
Mhm.
down to splash your face with cold water.
Yeah.
But most of the time I'll try to like, I'll be in the shower with my warm water and then I'll go and I'll just like stand under the cold water for like 30 to 60 seconds and then switch to warm water. And when you switch back and forth, when your body's in warmth, your circulation is going outward and expelling. And when it's cold, your circulation changes directions and goes inwards. And so when you do that, it's like when you're switching multiple times, it's an accordion that will help move lymph through your
Mm.
body and just kind of pump also just fresh blood and just all this freshness into your body, which
Yeah.
can really help if you're sick or you've been exposed to an illness or you're just dealing with brain fog or just feeling kind of sluggish and lethargic. And like that can all be like it's very Pisces to feel sluggish and lethargic. And that can also be very connected to like stagnant lymph.
Yeah.
And then I'll also say calendula foot baths, fantastic for athlete's foot if you
Mm.
do them repeatedly for an extended period of time, not just one. You have to do a lot of calendula foot baths, but it is very antifungal. So that's another way calendula helps with Pisces conditions.
Yeah, and I meant to say this for Aquarius, but this is good for Pisces too, because circulation is also a little bit of a Pisces thing as well.
Mhm.
But like taking a lot of walks
Yeah,
and like
movement.
literally just moving your
Yeah.
body a lot. Walks are especially good for the lower half of the legs and feet. So that Pisces Aquarius, also for Leo, because that circulatory system, like getting the whole body involved.
Uh-huh.
But if you have any issues with like your fingers or feet or toes or whatever going numb, then walks are actually a really great way that you can
Absolutely.
get things moving back in the body. And somebody asked, does ginger or green tea move the lymph? Do you
That's a
know? Do
good
you have a
question.
question?
I mean, ginger just moves things through your body in general. So if you're trying to stimulate movement, ginger's always a good option. I don't know specifically if it's indicated for the lymph, but I would guess because ginger is such a good mover in the body in general that it probably does have a positive influence on the lymph. Um, and like ginger with calendula would just like really like give a lot of oomph and like more power to the calendula, which is definitely moving the lymph. And then green tea, I don't know. I'm sorry.
Yeah, fair.
Green tea is great for brain fog though. I mean, it definitely does bring a lot of like mental clarity. So whether or not that's partially, if it maybe partially it is from lymphatic like work, but I don't know with green tea. Good to take for brain fog regardless though.
Yeah, perfect. Um, cool. Well, anything
Yeah.
else on
Well,
Pisces?
I feel like Pisces can really struggle with being grounded in reality. And so like
Yeah.
literally putting your feet on the earth is like we all
Yeah.
need that, but like Pisces, like putting your bare feet in some grass, like literally
Go
we are
touch
in a
grass.
yeah, but like we are an electrical system as people in human bodies and
Hmm.
putting our feet on the earth helps to actually ground excess electricity and like balance out our system.
Yeah.
And yeah, especially if you're like in that Pisces daydreamy, like what even is real type of space, doing grounding exercises for your feet, nice foot
Mhm.
massages or a foot bath. Especially if like if you don't want to waste the water with a bath or you don't have a bathtub. A lot of medicines can be like a lavender foot bath before bed, like delightful for children,
Mhm.
delightful for adults, like very calming and soothing. So
Mhm.
foot baths can be a really great thing for Pisces energy as well.
Yeah. Amazing.
Awesome. Well, I
Cool.
guess that's all the zodiac signs. Yeah, any final thoughts before
Yeah.
we wrap up, Lori?
Um, well, let's wrap up this episode and then maybe do a quick episode Q&A because there are some questions and comments that we've got going on in here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's all I had to say about each of the signs, but then definitely like I guess to reiterate one more time, like if like listening to the sign that is your rising sign is going to be the most prominent, but if you have a stellium, if you have that sign in your sixth house, if you have the whatever your chart ruler is in, those signs can all be really prominent in going wrong when you have imbalances as well. So just like keeping keeping a watch on that. And also like your perfection year can be a really big one. And there's just like so many other like little minor things you can look
Hmm.
at, which we talked about a bit more in the first episode. So definitely listen to both of these. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all very well said. So yeah, and just if you have any reflections on how any of these medical correspondences show up in your own life, or how you make sense of the zodiac man and the correspondences between the different signs and the human body, please let us know. We always love hearing from folks and hearing reflections and reactions from people, because it's just like that's where astrology really comes alive. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you have any personal stories to share or thoughts and reflections about what we discussed in this episode, please comment down below or reach out to us on Instagram. And please come follow us on Instagram at ConversationsWPlanets, where we share forecasts and updates about the astrological movements happening in the sky, as well as updates about our episodes. The link to our Instagram is in the show notes down below.